What happens at laser tag never stays at laser tag.
Laser Unfocused Tag Talk.
Laser Unfocused Tag Talk.
I feel like you could be like in Ghostbusters or something.
Oh my God, you have got some stories.
Let's talk about laser tag.
Who knew you were a laser tag legend?
Time to get laser unfocused. Tag Talk with Tivia.
Welcome to Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Hi, I'm Tivia. When the laser tag game is on fire, look around and you'll probably find Blueflame, joining me with stories from years of playing competitive laser tag. I'd like to welcome my guest today, Andrea Allmond, who is better known in the laser tag community as Blueflame, to join me now for some Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Hi, Andrea.
Hi there.
Last time we saw each other was at this year's Armageddon tournament, and I know it's been a busy time. I just wanted to say congratulations on all the things that have been happening in your life.
Thank you so much. A lot happening, indeed.
I wanted to kind of go back a little ways to earlier in your life and learn a little bit about you and your background with laser tag. Now, how long have you been playing laser tag, and how did it all get started for you?
I've been playing laser tag since I was like 15 years old, and I'm 38 now. So yeah, a good while. Started in Texas, in NRH, Laser Quest.
North Richland Hills. I love that site. I was there about 2 weeks before it closed, but you spent lots of time there. So Quest was your first system, it sounds like.
It was not the first system I ever played, but the first one I actually competitively played. My first taste ever was QZAR at the mall in Arlington. Really? When I was probably like 11, and I fell in love with it then, but then I think it closed, and then I found Laser Quest like 4 years later.
Yeah. Very good. And have you been active in other communities, or was it predominantly Laser Quest?
Mostly Laser Quest. I got into Armageddon from Laser Quest because one of my teammates, Ricky Vega, Dark Angel, was on my NRH team. And he ran it at the time, and I went when they were in Dallas, but I didn't play. I was really young. I was like 15, couldn't drive yet, so I was like begging parents to let me go to laser tag. But yeah, that was my first experience seeing people play other systems. And then I played Armageddon, I think 2 years after that. The Austin players, like a player dropped, and last minute they picked me up, and I was like, all right, let's go. And then played off and on from there because Armageddon's great. Moved to California and started playing Zone because there's Zone out here. There's really not Zone in Texas, at least in the Dallas area. So yeah, mostly I play Zone now though, because that's the only thing out here in Laser Quest is Rest in Peace. So that's where we're at now.
Well, very good. And we'll talk a little bit about Laser Quest and what's happening there. But going back to those early days now, QZAR, you didn't need a code name, but Laser Quest, you do. So I'm just kind of curious. I love to hear the origin stories. Where did your code name of Blueflame come from?
I think my first code name was Lightning because I was like, oh, I'm super fast. I was like a little kid. And then I think it was like actually on the board of like pick your code name. Like one of them was Lightning, and everyone kept taking it. And I was like, dang, I can't use my name. So then I was like, what's kind of hot like that? And I was like, the hottest part of the flame is Blueflame. So it kind of evolved into Blueflame from Lightning.
I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of a adolescent now, but I still roll with it,
Very good. Now, I don't know if you remember this, because we didn't really know each other at the time, but the first time that you and I were in a tournament together was at Laser Quest in Potomac Mills. And at the end, you were victorious. This was, I think, the last one that was held there. Do you remember?
Yeah, did I win that tournament? I feel like we lost that tournament, but yeah, okay, maybe we did win. I don't even know.
Well, I remember very clearly that you were holding the trophy at the end. Now, I must say it was like at 3 a.m, so I might be remembering some things wrong about this, but what I think I remember is that I believe you and I might have been the only female competitors at that tournament, but I do remember sticking around, wanting to be supportive and, find out who the winner was, and being really delighted that you were the one holding the trophy at the end, because I felt like, you're kind of holding it for, female laser tag players and showing your stuff. And so I'd love to know if you have found that, being a woman in laser tag, what kind of reaction do you get? Is there anything that you found to be more challenging or interesting in a competition with a lot of guys?
I would say, I guess it is more challenging to a certain extent, just to get people to trust you that don't know you yet as a player. I guess the way people have treated me has evolved over the years. I think most people now kind of know that I'm a pretty solid player. But when I was younger, it was hard. Like my first year of tryouts, I was not great yet, but I was probably better than like the last 3 or 4 people on the A team for the NRH team. But they chased me, and like their better players chased me and like knocked my score down. They did not want me to play, which in hindsight I kind of get because I was like a 14-year-old also, and I feel like they probably didn't want kids on their team. There weren't. I think I was going to be the youngest person on the team, but I do think it also had a bit to do with the fact that I was a female. So there was that fight. Eventually, they trusted me and were happy that I was on the team, but there was definitely probably 3 or 4 years where I really had to prove myself or whatever, however you want to call it, because of being a female. So that's always the grind there, which I'm sure any female player has gone through to a certain extent. But yeah, so it's tough, but it's fun at the same time because when you start beating them, it's pretty hilarious. Whenever the certain ones are cool and they're fine with it, and the other ones get a little angry, and I kind of like that. So yeah.
I also think there's something of a satisfaction to being able to kind of be a role model when you're going out and you play maybe a public night. If you see younger girls trying their hand at this, I know I feel really rewarded whenever you get to help somebody along. And so because you are very renowned in the community, I'm sure you've had the chance to be a role model. How do you feel, kind of bringing up the younger kids now?
It's fun. I really enjoy it. Just anytime anybody's like, "Oh, Blueflame, wow!" I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool that you get excited about a female tag player." So yeah, it's good to know that I've had inspiration for other female players. And there's a player in the UK, a Laser Quest player that I'm connected with that's really good as well, and we're fans of each other, I would say. Uprising. So
Lucy.
Shout out to Lucy. Yeah.
Lucy's great.
Yeah. So, just players like that I've met along the way. So yeah, it's awesome. It feels good.
Well, and I love hearing some of Lucy's stories because she's in a place where Laser Quest is still something that she's able to do on the regular. But Laser Quest, the system that you're probably the most known for in North America, all the Versent Corporation Laser Quest locations closed down in 2020. So that had a huge impact on a lot of people. And I'd love to know your perspective on how did this affect you and what you saw as far as how it affected the laser tag community on a whole?
Personally bummed me out. Like I feel like I will always play, maybe not all the time. I don't ever really get to practice because I work a lot now, but like I was like a lifer. I will always go play if I can. So yeah, it bummed me out. I was like, dang, that's our game. So yeah, it was sad. It was a sad moment. Childhood memories, like some of my best friends are from tag, from the NRH team and from Armageddon. So at least there's Armageddon still, there's still tag. But yeah, it's a bummer. And it wasn't a huge surprise because I know that things had been getting a little, I don't know the details, but shaky within the company kind of even before 2020. So whenever the pandemic hit, it wasn't a full surprise to me, but it still was like, oh, my heart, I'll never be able to go back to NRH and visit, so that's my home maze. So yeah, it's a bummer.
I think anybody who's lost their home site knows exactly what that feeling is. I remember when my first home site closed, which wasn't Laser Quest, but I was in Montana and I read about it on the internet and I was like, I was just there Saturday. What happened?
No.
So yeah, it's certainly difficult. And for all of North America or the majority of North America to not have it, really does impact anybody who that was the primary system for. So how do you adapt once your primary system has gone away? You mentioned Zone, but how do you make that transition to something that's new or not your first forte?
I guess for Zone, at least I was kind of lucky that I had a little bit of a crossover. I was playing Laser Quest here when it was still open, and then I started playing some Zone. So picking up, just the kind of the one shot a second, like slowly, not really going to tournaments, but just playing a couple of their member nights. So I was sort of integrated a little bit via Armageddon games, and then playing some member nights. And then they had, what was it? A Nats, actually, Nationals. They call it Nats, right? Zone. Yeah, Nats.
Yeah.
At Sherman Oaks. So I played that. And then after that, I was kind of hooked, and I really learned the game from there of like not being as aggressive as I would play in Quest, and just kind of learning the ins and outs of Zone a little bit. But yeah, as far as adapting, at the end of the day, I feel like tag is all positioning, no matter what it is. You know, I mean, there's other things involved, but like at its core, I feel like all of the games are similar if you look at it that way. You know, it's positioning, it's teamwork, and it's just kind of seeing the field. So I think I just take the basic principles from Laser Quest and put that into Zone, and then learning the Zone stuff is more like getting the aim down on the new gun, and the one shot a second, and the rhythm, and the dodge. That's a little bit different. So yeah, I think it's just over time. I feel like every time I go, I get a little bit better. I still get my butt kicked by some of the locals here, and it's a great time. Yeah.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that there is a lot of similarity between all the systems have some similarities, but then some of them are closer to one another than others. So I wondered if Zone was a solution for proximity's sake, or because it just felt like the most natural secondary system to go to.
I think proximity's sake, yes, but also Zone was kind of the other one I was interested in when I was playing Quest, because the dogfighting was kind of similar, and the gameplay's similar-esque to Laser Quest, even though Laser Quest is, I think, more of a brawler style of game, and Zone is a little bit more tactile, I guess, and teamwork oriented. But they both had kind of the same targets and kind of the same dogfighting. So it was easy to move into that. I also really like Force, but Force for me is about 2 hours south, I think. So it's just harder to get out there and play. But yeah, I'm interested in playing Force and Zone tournaments because I think they're both great systems.
Very good. Well, now I know a good number of the Laser Quest, the former Laser Quest arenas have been purchased and reopened as new businesses with other laser tag systems. And I'd love to know what your impression is about how the loss of Laser Quest has given way to other things. For example, I know that some of the Laser Quest sites where you've opened have transitioned to brand new systems.
Yeah, I actually haven't been to any yet, but I played a Zone tournament in late December. At the new location in Chino, which is a really nice center. If anybody hasn't been, definitely go.
Infusion Zone. Yeah,
Infusion, that's what it is. And I played against the Laserland like employees. They came and brought a team to that, and they were really nice. I wasn't sure what system it was. I tried to look it up online. It looks like a system I haven't seen before, but Laserland is who took over Mission Viejo. I'm going to go at some point, but yeah, I have no idea kind of how things are going there. And then we played Armageddon this year at Canton, right? We were at Canton.
Yes.
Akron. I can't remember. One of those. Canton. I know, right? They all bleed. I'm like, somewhere in Ohio.
Yeah.
And you know, it was kind of sad because their equipment, even though Laser Quest equipment was never amazing, you could tell that like now that it wasn't Laser Quest, they hadn't really teched anything. And so it was definitely like a downgraded version of the Quest we know when we played at Armageddon this year.
Well, what you're describing is a very unique situation because most Laser Quest in North America is gone. I believe there is a site operating on its own in Mexico. And as for the United States, the only site that you can still play with Laser Quest equipment is coincidentally the one that we were at, Laser Zone Canton. And my understanding of that, we have an interview on the Tivia Chick Loves Laser Tag website, was that the owner purchased the property with all the contents inside and then got it up and running. And so that's a very unique situation. And that I think is a big part of why Armageddon was anchored in that area, to take advantage of the fact that it's the one last standing site. Though it's not operating as Laser Quest, it's the only place where that gear is still currently active. However, overseas, there's still lots of Laser Quest. That's a whole different animal. And so for those who either are in Ohio or are watching from a place where they can still play, I'd love to know, what tips and tricks would you offer to somebody who wants to improve their game at Laser Quest?
Sure. So many things to be done. But the basics of it all are definitely, I would say, look at your positioning in the game, like really don't just run in and like find a corner, like, find a good position, but really look at the entire game and kind of see how it's flowing and see kind of where the points are funneling and put yourself in the best position from there. I would say that's the number one thing. Like, even if you don't have great one-on-one skills or anything like that, like if you can put yourself in the right spot, you can still score some points. So I would say that's the number one thing is positioning. Don't be out in the middle. Just playing smart, using the good old noggin. And then aim is probably the second most important thing. Definitely practicing that. Even like back in the day, this is so goofy, but I had like a Laser Quest shell of a gun, and I put a laser like inside of it, like a laser pointer, and I would go out in the garage and like turn on angry, angsty teen music and just like shoot posters, like, and stuff like that. So just practicing your aim is really important. And then once you get a little bit more advanced, most Laser Quest people shoot with their thumb so that they can kind of turn the gun as opposed to being like this and not being as mobile. I'm showing you all on Zoom. And standing sideways to kind of protect your front and your back, and being able to kind of move the shoulder around to dodge that, and staying on your toes, kind of like playing basketball or soccer, like defense, just kind of always being on your toes and reactive and proactive to what your surroundings are giving to you.
Anybody who has watched you play or any serious player knows that laser tag in any form is generally a very active, athletic kind of sport. So can you kind of speak to, just how much movement goes into it?
A lot. I think it depends on what kind of a player you are, because I feel like there are kind of different positions, and some people kind of stay back and guard the base if there's a base. But for a player like me, who's kind of more of like an aggressor and kind of there to kind of like put pressure on the other team, I'm moving a lot throughout the game. Like someone like me, or like Swaz, or like Micro, if you know those players, you do, but if the listeners know those players, it's pretty much nonstop movement to try to get your team the advantage one way or the other, get your team points, get you some extra points, make the other team make a mistake. So yeah, it's pretty much constant movement, no matter what for me. Or if I'm not moving, I'm definitely like looking and kind of assessing when I can get out and do what I need to do to advance us further in the game.
I've often said that laser tag is what I do instead of going to the gym, because you get quite a workout with it.
Absolutely. I hadn't played laser tag since Armageddon, actually. And then I played that tournament in December. And the next day I was like, I did 5 million squats. And I looked at my phone and I was like, wow, that's a lot of steps. So yeah, it's a thing. When you're young and playing once a week, you don't feel it. But once you get older, you're like, oh my, yeah, I'm going to feel that for a couple of days.
Yeah. So better health is one of the things that you can gain out of laser tag. But I'd love to know, what else do you feel like you personally have gained out of being part of the competitive laser tag scene?
Oh, a lot of things. So many things. First of all, some great friendships that I'll always have. One of them was the best man at my wedding. So some of those relationships run really deep. So that would be the number one thing that I've taken from it. And I think just like perseverance, I guess, would be a thing that I've learned from that, along with other sports. I also was a basketball player, but just like never giving up, kind of always just keep hustling, never give up. Like, things can happen in a game. You might feel like you're losing, but like you could go on a run where nobody hits you and you hit 15 people and you won the game for your team. So it's just kind of like the never give up attitude. I feel like kind of keep going no matter what. I definitely got from tag and from basketball, other sports. And let's see what else. Just like strategy. I think it's such a strategic game, especially when you get into like the finals and the playoffs and you're playing another really good team. And like technically you're pretty even skill wise. So like you've got to really have good teamwork and good strategy to pull out the win. And I think that just kind of applies to life too. And being on a team in general, I think has helped me. I'm a sound designer in my day job, and that involves putting teams together and kind of putting people where their strengths lie, and that's a lot like tag. So Yeah, I think it's given me a lot of life skills that I got to learn early when I was like, 15, 16 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I would agree. Lots of really positive benefits to gain out of that. But I'm going to shift that question to more of a material answer and ask, what is the best prize that you've ever taken home because of laser tag?
Best prize. Wow. Um, we've won 4 NACs. I don't remember what the prize actually was because we split it, but I want to say it was like $1,500, like not a ton, maybe $2,000 to split between like, you know, I guess 8 people or whatever it was. So cash, if you're talking cash, I think that was the largest prize I've won. But we don't really play for money, but the largest the largest prize to me would be like the 4 NAC championships for sure. Like those were just really fulfilling to win with like a homegrown team, not really pulling from other cities, and a team that we had built up from like 2002, 2003, I think, or four, whenever I started. Yeah, '04 or '05 was when like that group really got together, and we lost probably like 3 years in a row. We got like fourth place like 3 years in a row. We never gave up, and then we went in and dethroned the two-time champs, which was Denver, and I think that was probably one of the better moments. Even though we didn't win that year, we got second that year, but we did dethrone them in the playoffs, and that was like a huge deal. And then we were like, okay, we can win. And then the next year we won, and I think we won all 3 games of the final. So I think that would be the biggest win, was maybe the first NAC win.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was kind of thinking you were going to say, oh, I got a trophy this big. I was not expecting you to say cash, only because nobody plays laser tag with the intention of making back their money in any way. But
right.
By the time you travel, by the time you pay your entrance fee, if you've broken even, God bless you. You've done well.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, but it sounds like you've had some very interesting adventures along the way. And that's really where this whole podcast idea started, was let's hear some stories. So from the tournament world, I'd love to know, what's the most unbelievable thing that has ever happened to you or your team at a laser tag tournament?
Trying to think of the craziest thing. We're on NRH, so we had some wild times. Ricky's on my team,
Crazy enough right there.
I know, right? Geez, I'm like, what can I say that's like PG for the audience? The craziest thing, craziest story. I don't know if this is like a super crazy story, but to me, this just is a lasting story in my mind. I think one year in Vegas, I was at the buffet. I don't remember what buffet it was, one of the big buffets in Vegas, with the Austin laser tag team. And they had written out basically like a maze plot, but it was like the restaurant or the buffet. And they were like trying to clear out the buffet, and they pretty much did it. And it was pretty amazing. Like they were like, all right, you're going to hit the bread, you're going to hit the shrimp, you're going to hit this, you're going to hit this. And then it was Dark Angel's team and Double O Fat Boy, that team, Sunshine, if you remember her. It was that Austin Laser Quest team. And I just thought that was hilarious. I don't know. That stuck in my mind as just like a crazy. I was like, you guys are so nuts, but it was a good time. They were always just doing fun little things like that. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, if not a crazy thing that's happened, talk about the craziest or most memorable arena that you've been in. Do you have any favorites?
Favorite arena? Let's see here. For Laser Quest or just any arena?
Any arena.
Arena.
Some of them are pretty astounding.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I really like the Sherman Oaks Arena a lot, the zone.
I agree with that. They have a very unique setup.
Mm-hmm. That's the 3 tunnels, and it's really good for multiple games. Like, it's good for base flags. It's not so great for elimination, but for like comp and base flags, it's an amazing arena for those two game formats.
And a very unique stylized design. Like each base is in kind of I don't want to say color coded, but color themed kind of dome shape on one side. And it's kind of, I think the red one is a little bit more angular, and then you go across the way, and the blue is kind of out in left field if I remember, but I really liked the creative aesthetic behind that one. But the map layout is unusual also.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a good one. It was a really fun Nats that we had there. So definitely a tournament worthy place. I also really did like the NRH maze, though. I know that's my home maze, but that was a good maze. And the Denver Laser Quest maze was also really, really amazing. And the new ones in San Jose were also pretty cool. They were interesting. They were much different than the three tower Laser Quest arenas that we're kind of used to.
Mm-hmm.
It was like they had three towers still, but they were all connected like via a catwalk. So it was all really one big tower, and you could get to each tower in like 20 seconds. So those were interesting as well.
If I recall, I think San Jose had a very unique Laser Quest.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the details about that one? I feel like that was more recently remodeled.
Yeah, or I think it was new. It was like a new site.
Yeah,
like San Jose. It was like one of the last ones I think Laser Quest opened up. But yeah, it just had the catwalk in the middle, and then the three towers that connected, and then the floor was actually pretty spread out, so you could have like a pretty crazy game down there if it stayed on the floor. A lot of running around down there, and the packs were actually really great. They finally figured it out, and then they closed.
Right.
Sorry, Laser Quest.
There were a number of sites towards the end that did get brand new equipment, and so it was kind of a very clear distinction when you were playing on the new gear versus the old.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that gear functioned well. Like you could hit people in one shot. It was pretty amazing. But yeah, I think in the UK they have that version of the packs. Maybe a newer one now. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, talking about you can hit the packs with that, segue into, do you have any that couldn't happen again if we tried stories? Not necessarily about hitting the packs, but maybe.
Right. I've had a couple of shots for sure that like in games where I was just like, I'm probably not going to get this. And then I like, trick shots, and then you're like, and someone is like, how? And I'm like, I don't even know how, like there was definitely a couple of those times. Trying to think of a time where we just beat someone we shouldn't have or something. The zone tournament I just played, we got second, and that shouldn't have happened. We had me, another kid named Ricky, who's actually a really good local, but then we played with a 12-year-old kid and someone who had never played before, which I love doing that, and then one of the other employees. So our team was like, we probably should have gotten like 5th place. And we took second, and that shouldn't have happened, but it did, and so that was really fun. So yeah, the upsets are always fun to me. Anytime you can upset. I actually don't like being on the most stacked team. I like to be on kind of the second most stacked team and then upset. So yeah.
Very cool. It makes it interesting.
Absolutely.
I agree with what you're saying there. So kind of in that vein, I mean, definitely those upsets are what are part of what you love about the feeling. But I mean, what really makes a laser tag experience worthwhile to you?
I just love the game in general, really. Like if we're just messing around and playing a couple of casual games, I'm having fun. And if we're having, the most intense game of our lives, I'm having more fun. I won't lie. Like I live for those moments of like the really tough competition where every move you make counts, and, working with your teammates and the communication, like all of that, like that pressure. I really enjoy that.
Well, certainly you've made a great name for yourself in the community, and I look forward to the next time that I get to play against you, which who knows, maybe that'll be California.
Yeah, come on out.
There before too long.
Right? Yeah, I know they're running like local tournaments, I think like every 3 months out here now. I actually just made a group that I'll invite you to for the LA laser tag scene, at least. You inspired me to do that. I was like, I want to get us all together because we don't have a group out here. Like we play, but we don't have any like streamline of communication. So
Well, that's very
Yeah.
cool. I'd love to hear about that, and seriously thinking of making a trip out that way. So we'll get to do the rapid fire in person at some point. But right now, how about we wrap up with a little bit of rapid fire tag talk? Quick questions to you, quick answers back.
All right.
All right. Favorite laser tag system of all time?
It's got to be Laser Quest.
I knew you were going to say that. Favorite arena?
Sherman Oaks.
Coolest person you've ever met through laser tag?
I've met a lot of really cool people, but I would have to say probably my boy Havoc, Scott. He's a really, really good friend of mine. So yeah, he's like a brother. So yeah, I would say him.
Very good. Coolest place that you've ever visited because of laser tag?
The UK, I would say, was really, really cool. I had a great experience out there. And I went there for the World's Tournament, and that was great. So,
favorite prize or souvenir that you got to take home?
I think that the fact that I got the cockiest player award was pretty funny at Armageddon, like the year before last, which is totally true. I'm pretty intense when I get in the game. I'm chill when I'm out of it, but that made me laugh. So,
okay, talk about that trophy for a moment.
The cockiest player award. I think you know how they have like the awards at Armageddon, and they vote at the end for like Rookie of the Year and like MVP and you know, a bunch of different things, goofy ones too, like you know, best drinker and all of those.
Which nobody challenges Travis for that.
I know, right? How could you? You know, yeah. So they voted me as just the most confident, most cocky player.
But am I remembering right that the trophy was a unique shape?
Yeah, it's a rooster.
Okay,
yes.
That's where I was going with that.
Have it. I don't think I have it near me, or I would show you.
I just get a giggle out of that.
It's pretty funny. Bring the trophies back. No.
All right. Favorite snack at the concession stand?
Oh man, I would have to say fruit snacks. I'm always into the fruit snacks.
Favorite brand of running or we never run in the arena shoes?
Never. I have Adidas. What are these? What are these called? The Ultra Boosts. I like the Ultra Boosts a lot. The Air Max, the Nike Air Max are good too. I feel like they're pretty good on your feet and pretty durable.
Awesome. And favorite team name for a team that you've played on?
Let's see here. Favorite team name. So many team names.
I love team names.
I know. There's
really cool one.
There's been so many. But honestly, I don't know. I'm old school. The NRH chainsaws, that was always a really fun name because we're so nerdy, but we took our laser guns before, instead of like high-fiving, we would all like start our chainsaws, and that was always a really good time. And we made really annoying noises, and it would kind of get in the other team's head. So I'll go with that answer.
All right. That's awesome. And any other final thoughts or stories, things you might want to share?
No, I'm just happy that laser tag is still alive in general. I'll just say that. I'm grateful for people like you who are keeping the game alive and, you know, getting us to talk about these things. And I hope that even if Laser Quest doesn't come back in the US, I'm hopeful that maybe somebody will buy some of the equipment and start their own thing. But if they don't, that Zone continues to have tournaments and Force. And I just hope that the game continues. So keep playing, y'all.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me. My guest, Andrea Allmond, aka Blueflame, joining us for some Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Listen for more episodes on the first and third Friday of each month. Want to be a guest on an upcoming episode? Find out more and follow my blog and website at TiviaChickLovesLaserTag.com.